You have probably tried. You write a massive, detailed spec, a beautiful document that rivals an RFC, and hand it to an AI coding assistant. Then it ignores half of it, or it hallucinates the feature you never asked for. The question is, why does this happen, and how do we fix it? I think the fix is to stop writing specs for your AI and instead build the spec with your AI. This simple shift, which is called spec-driven development, I did a video about it, so make sure to check it out, turns your AI from a flaky code generator into a reliable planning partner. It prevents the wasted tokens, buggy code, and endless rework that comes from handing an AI a giant rigid document. Instead of trying to make the perfect spec up front, you can try to use a simple workflow to guide the AI to build its own plan, which you can then refine and execute together. So in this video, you will learn first how to start with a high-level vision and use the AI to draft its own detailed plan. Second, the technique to enforce a plan-first workflow, turning the AI into a design partner. And third, how to use a spec as a living document that anchors your AI across multiple sessions. And by the end of this video, you will have a clear framework for writing specs that turns your AI coding assistant into a reliable and productive teammate. So let's dive in. Our first principle sounds counterintuitive. To get detailed implementation, you must start with a high-level vision. Forget writing a 20-page document upfront, as it floods the context window and leads to AI ignoring critical details. Instead, begin with a clear goal statement and a few code requirements. Think of it as a product brief, not a technical manual. Then, you ask the AI to expand it into a detailed plan. Why does this work? Well, LLMs are powerful elaboration engines. They excel at fleshing out details once they have a solid direction. But they need a clear, concise mission to avoid drifting off course. By providing a simple objective, you leverage the AI strength while keeping control of the direction. The spec becomes the very first artifact you and the AI build together. Here is a practical example. Let's say you want to build a simple to-do list app. The old way is to write out every details, the database schema, the API endpoint, the exact HTML. The new way is to start a session with a simple prompt. Something like, you are an AI software engineer, draft a detailed specification in a file named SPEC.md. And for a web app where users can track tasks, it needs user accounts, a database, and a simple UI, something like that. And that's it. The agent will return with a structured document, likely including an overview and a feature list, the tech stack suggestion, and a data model, and an implementation plan, of course. And this document is now your shared source of truth. Before a single line of code is written, you can review this plan, you correct the misunderstanding, you can refine features and approve the tech stack. You are iterating on the plan, which is thousands of times cheaper than iterating on code. And this approach focuses on what and the why, anchoring the entire process in a clear set of goals. It avoids over-engineering and ensures you and the AI coding assistants are both aligned. But having a draft spec is one thing, but forcing the AI to stick to it is another challenge. I will show you how to do that next. So you have a draft of the spec and the AI's first attempt is on the screen. The temptation is to immediately say, okay, let's build it. But this is a mistake. The second principle is to enforce a strict planning phase before any code gets written. The best way to do this is with a plan mode. Some advanced coding agents have this built-in. It is a mode where the agent has read-only access to your code base. It can read files, analyze dependencies, and create detailed plans. It works very, very well, especially with Cloud Code. And this is an incredible powerful constraint. If your agent doesn't have a dedicated plan mode, you can simulate it with a simple instruction. Something like, okay, for now, do not write or modify any code, only suggest changes to the Spec.md file that you have written together, and only ask clarifying questions. And this forces a conversation about the plan. With your draft Spec.md file, you now use plan mode to refine it. You can ask things like, okay, read the Spec.md file, review the proposed architecture for potential security risks, or something like, okay, based on the future list, suggest a detailed database schema. Ask me 3 clarifying questions about the user authentication flow, for example. The agent is now your co-pilot for designing an architecture, working this way. It questions your assumption, it spots potential problems, and helps you think through edge cases. The goal is to refine the plan until there is no room for misinterpretations. Pause for a moment and think about your last coding session with an AI. How much time was spent fixing things that a better plan would have captured? This planning cycle prevents that entire category of error. It front-loads the thinking where human oversight provides the most value. You are not just a prompter, you are an editor and a strategy. And only when the spec is solid do you exit the plan mode. And only then do you give the command to execute. And this workflow transforms the AI from a tool that sometimes works into a process that reliably delivers. It is the difference between gambling on a good result and engineering one. The plan is solid. The first few features are built. But software development is not a single session. It happens over days or weeks. And AI agents have a memory problem. You know, the context windows are finite. I have done a video about context windows that you can check out over here if you are interested. I will let you also in the description down below. Chat histories get long and confusing. When you start a new session, the agent doesn't remember the nuances of last week's decisions. And this brings us to our third principle. The spec must be a living anchor for the AI. Your spec.md file is not a one-time document. You create it and forget it. No, it's not like that. It is the persistent external brain for your entire project. Every time you start a new session, you ground the agent in this document. And most developers just scroll up in the chat, hoping the context is there. They say something like, well, okay, let's continue working on the user profile page. The better move, I think, is to be explicit. You start the session by saying, okay, read the spec.md file. We are working on feature number 3, for example, the user profile page, let's say, and according to the spec, this page must display the user's name, email, and a list of data. Please generate a front-end component for this page. And this single instruction does 3 critical things. First, it reestablishes full project context. Second, it directs the agent to the specific task. And third, it points to the exact requirements in the source of truth, reducing hallucinations as the project evolves. So should the spec. And once the spec is updated, you then ask it to modify the code to match. The spec and the code evolve together. This made the spec a living artifact, not just a static documentation. It is the anchor that mitigates the agent's forgetfulness and keeps complex projects on track. So let's tie this all together. First, writing specs for an AI is not about creating massive perfect documents. It is a 3-step collaborative process. First, start with a high-level vision and handle it to an AI so that it will draft the detailed plan. You guide and the AI elaborates. Second, enforce a planning cycle using read-only mode. You define the plan together before any codes get written. And third, treat the spec as a living anchor. It is the permanent source of truth that grounds your AI across every session, solving its memory problem. This framework shifts your role from a principal prompter to an architect, guiding an intelligent but forgetful partner. In the next days, try to pick one small, well-defined feature you need to build, and before you write any code, create an SPEC.md file, write a single high-level sentence describing the goal and ask your AI agent to draft a plan. Then iterate on that plan before letting it generate the code. Let's see how it changes your workflow. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.